Starting with the top focus here on the news coming in from the Vistara Airlines. In fact, Airlines has now announced 10% cutback in its services. Remember, this has happened after Vistara had to cancel over 1,000 flights from March 31st, is what sources have informed NDTV. Now, the flights cut is to minimize the trouble which the flyers are facing at this moment because of the issues the airline is going through. Let me go across to my colleague Vishnu Shom, who is joining us with more details on this.
The decision of the management of Vistara to scale back their operations by 25 to 30 flights every day, in other words 10% of the capacity that they were operating, comes at a time when pilots of the airline had serious concerns about the rostering in the airline, which had resulted them to a point where even flight safety may have been jeopardized because they were exhausted. Pilots felt that the airline was expanding at a pace at which there was no buffer which was actually available, and therefore it resulted in a crisis in the rostering of the airline, as a result of which there were upwards of 50 flights cancelled on 2 days last week. Now that situation has been regularized somewhat, but as part of the decisions the airline is taking to make the airline easier upon the pilots, they've now decided to scale back their operations by up to 30 flights a day, or 10% of the capacity they were operating. This takes them back to the same level of flight operations as at the end of February 2024. And the airline says this will provide much needed resilience and buffer in the pilot rosters. Most of these are going to be affecting the domestic network of the airline and much ahead of time to minimize inconvenience to customers. Also, those passengers who are affected are being put onto other flights as well as applicable, is what the airline actually says at this stage. So these are what the management of the airline are looking at. The idea is to stabilize the number of flights that they are operating.